All right, Genevieve is getting her gear out, our gear out. I am going to do some work on these food plots. You guys were commenting before about, man, it seems like Genevieve's doing all the work. She's doing an awful lot of it, that's for sure. She is a huge help with these food plots. Food plottery is the topic of this vlog. I'll be answering your questions, starting with, what in the world is food plottery? Food plottery is just what Genevieve and I call food plot work, right? Got to make a fun name up for something to make it sound a little bit more fun. I don't know. Maybe we should be planting hydrangea. It looks like the deer like this, huh? Food plots are a lot of work. They can be a lot of work. In order to make them a little bit more fun, what you do is you do them in small bits. Do them in little pieces, right? Every weekend we do 3 or 4 hours worth of food plot work, habitat work. Just one day each weekend, and it really adds up. We have these food plot locations fully prepped for today, as you'll see. And when you do this in those little stages, you actually have an opportunity to really affect the timing of all this stuff. Very important. Timing is everything with food plots. Really it is. I mean, you don't want to plant them too soon. We're planting some stuff today that you really want to plant in mid-August. You don't want to plant it in June or anything like that. It'll get rained out. It'll get, it'll overgrow. You don't want to overgrow, but you don't want to undergrow certain food plot crops. Did a poll on the YouTube channel, and it turns out food plots are something that you guys are a little bit interested in. 37% said yes, we're into food plots. 22% said no, not into food plots. But 42% of you said that yes, I want to do food plots at some point in the future. I'll be doing food plots. I am interested in doing them at some point. That tells me that 80% of the people who answered in that poll are interested in food plots. And I'm hopeful that this video answers some of those questions, but also provides a little inspiration for you to go out there and try your own food plottery, right? Try your hand at some food plottery and put in your own food plots. We are doing this with almost no technology, okay? A lot of know-how. I've done a lot of food plots. There was a time, you will recall, where we had rangers and tractors and all that other fun stuff. We don't have that these days. There is no more ranger in the kingdom of Bunjie. There's no more tractors. There's only hand tools. Today we've got a rake, a pitchfork, a sickle, a scythe. We've got a weed eater, right? That's the gas job, so that's the only gas-powered engine I'll be taking into the woods with us. But that's the tools that we're using. We actually carry the water in on our backs that we put down when we sprayed the glyphosate and all that stuff at a different time. And we've done all this stuff by hand. And the reasons for that they're kind of set forth in my book, The Death by Bunjie Crossbow Story. If you want to check that out, you can find out the answers to those questions, to why we're doing this with hand tools. These are smaller but effective, I believe, food plots. And by doing them by hand, we're kind of showing you guys that if you're interested in this stuff, you're just not quite ready to pull the trigger on a food plot. If you do a lot of research and you do it the right way, it can be done without spending a whole bunch of money, without having a whole bunch of elaborate equipment, and it can be done with those hand tools. We're spending $15. $15 on seed. Well, here we are. We have arrived at the Ridge Staging food plot. You can see it behind me, a big old brown dead spot in the middle of a green, lush woods that has been the recipient of a lot of spring and summer rain. This food plot, glyphosate, 1 round in June, 1 round in July, and it has burned down very nicely, very well burned down. And what I mean by that is killed all the weeds, right? And did such a good job that there's not going to be a lot of raking and weed eating to be done. Down on the bottom, there's some tall stuff. I'll take care of that. But essentially what we're going to do, we're just going to rake this out now, okay? Going to rake it all out, make a nice seed bed, best you can get in the woods. And then we are going to broadcast the seed today, and then we're going to lift up with a pitchfork and put all that stuff back on. Is this going to work? Well, it worked last year. If you look at the videos that we had last year, I did a couple videos on this topic. Really, it worked very well, I think. We had a nice food plot here. I was in here one day. I hunted here one morning and shot my buck at 7:45 a.m. And he was the 6th deer I saw that morning. So it attracted deer. I had 3 out in the field, 2 bucks here in the food plot, including the one I shot, plus 1 additional one. Not too bad. I mean, that's a pretty good setup, right? For the most part, though, rake will get rid of most of this grass. Over here, the grass is a little thick. I'm going to go through it with a weed eater and chew it up a little bit, but the rake is really going to be the tool for the job. So we have gloves that we've carried in here with us to do that. Down here on the bottom, that tall stuff, I will use the scythe a little bit, go through there, whack that down, get it done. Then we can lift it up, carry it out with a pitchfork again, rake everything down. And then we're going to use a pitchfork to lay the stuff back on top of the seed. One other thing I should mention, I've done a lot of videos on Foodplots. Go look at there's a playlist on Foodplots. Go check it out. There is a ton of information on Death by Bungie about Foodplots, as is the rest of the internet. There is tons of information out there. We do not lack information. What we lack is getting out there and doing it, right? So we won't have any trouble with that. Genevieve and I have really put in the time. This is actually the fun part. The planting is the fun part. One other thing we did, though, is we put a lot of lime on here. I got 100 pounds of lime on this food plot alone, 100 pounds on the other food plot that we're working on as well. Timing's everything. We went and did the liming long before we, even before I put on one round of lime, 50 pounds of that was spread on here pretty heavy back in late June. And then the second round I just put on a few weeks ago. So all the lime has been put on here, and it has had ample time to soak in the best you're going to do. I didn't do a soil test. I don't think you need to do a soil test on something like that. I realize if you want perfection, you do a soil test. There's no question about that. But I already know this soil needs lime. I know that. You know how I know? It's in the woods. It's in the woods. Every food plot in the woods in northeastern Pennsylvania is going to need lime. If it's in the woods, that is sour soil by definition. Adding that lime will allow whatever fertilizer I put on here and whatever nutrients are in the soil to be soaked up by the seeds. It's going to work. One of the questions I got was, why are you using pelletized lime? That's what I spread on here. Pelletized lime just goes through a spreader real easy. Those little hand spreaders that I've got. It goes through that real easy. For the most part, it wasn't too bad. 50 pounds, 2 different bags. We brought them both down here on the back of a sled, on a little winter sled there, kid's sled, dragged it into the woods, left it here with a rock on it, the one bag that we didn't use, so it was ready to go later on. And basically, just spread it out by hand, make sure you get it on there good. The rain does the rest, it breaks down. Pelletized lime, from what I understand, actually does absorb into the soil faster than ag lime. I realize when you look at it, the particles are bigger, right? And you look at it and you say, well, it can't break down faster. It's bigger. How can it get into the soil faster? It's because when they make it pelletized, okay, when they pelletize it, it is a lot finer. They make a much finer product and then pelletize that. So when water reacts with those pellets, it dissolves it and breaks into the soil faster. It can get into the soil faster just because it's smaller. Plus, again, convenience. The stuff seems to work. I don't seem to have too many problems with it. Not going to complain about it, really. Not going to research it any further. Just going to keep doing what I did last year, what I've done in previous years with the seed, and it's going to work just fine. So that's what we're doing. There is our mock scrape that we put in last week. Those branches are holding on there. The leaves are holding on. Does appear to be a very small amount of evidence of use. And our camera should be able to tell us who did that. One other question I got, and this is a great question, is why in the world are you planting ryegrass? Tell us you don't mean ryegrass, you mean cereal rye, or you mean winter rye or winter wheat or something else. There are a ton of much better food plot seeds out there. If you want to go to an ag store and you want to plant something, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to attract deer all year long, clover is a great alternative. If you are looking to just have a plot like this size to hunt over in the fall, then ryegrass might be your friend. And the reason I say that, now I could go to the ag store and I could get the winter wheat, put that in here, plant it at the right time. That would all work, no question. I'm not as familiar with that, haven't done it. And I am familiar with what I'm about to show you, the seed that we're putting in here today. And I can tell you from experience that it works for me. I'm not saying you want to use it because I'm not sure what you want to do, when you want to do it, what you're trying to accomplish. But I'm using this one Because all I had to do, that right there, I think it is, all I had to do was go to Tractor Supply and pick up a bag, right? 15 bucks, 12 bucks, 15 bucks, whatever it was. And I've got my food plot in a bag. And all I got to do, I've already planted that stuff for several years in a row. I almost always have had a plot of that going somewhere. It's primarily ryegrass. There's some other brassicas in there and stuff like that that might mature enough to get the deer on them. I mean, whatever grows between now and fall, the deer will eat, that's for sure. But the ryegrass is going to stay young, tender. It'll get 4 or 6 inches tall by the time the season rolls around. Deer will keep it somewhat short. It won't tassel out. But by the time that the season rolls around and into November, maybe even into rifle season, it will be green and lush in the middle of this woods where nothing else is green and lush. It's easy, it was cheap, and really my motivation for doing this is just to show you that this can be done with hand tools. It can be done with outspending an arm and a leg on seed and big machinery, everything else. And I am going to go help her in just a second here. But I wanted to finish a couple other questions that people had asked. So really that's the reason it's a familiarity thing. I've used this seed over time. It's a throw and grow thing. It does need seed to soil contact, so we are going to have to rake all of this. I'm going to hit all this thick stuff here with a weed eater and try and chew that up a little bit, clean up the bottom a little bit, make the raking job a little bit easier. And that should give us good seed to soil contact. Then we'll spread it good. We'll put all this duff back on top to protect it from the birds, protect it so it doesn't wash away. Let the rain come in this week. Hopefully we get a little bit of rain, just enough to get that seed started. And I think we're going to have a banner food plot in the fall. It has worked every time I have planted it. Watch, this year it won't, but every time I've planted it, we've had good success with this. So I'm pretty confident it's a good choice for seeds. Not the best choice for everybody. Absolutely not. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. One last thing, I did get a question from somebody, man, you should take those stumps out of there, right? Take those stumps out of there. Cut them off flush. Well, I don't do that. The reason for that is I like having stumps up higher in the air. They provide a great seat if you get a little bit tired, right? They provide a great place to put a bag of seed on it to show it off, right? Very good for that. But also, if I didn't do anything with this plot location and the weeds grew up, if I were driving through here on a Ranger or a tractor, I'd be able to see those stumps. That's why I leave the stumps a little bit higher. You get hung up on one, you want them high enough that you can tell where they are. Cutting them off low definitely is better because you won't get hung up on them. But then if I came through here to till, I wouldn't know where they were. And you end up hitting them with a brush hog, you hit them with a tiller or whatever else. That's the method to my madness. Okay, that was just the reason why I did that. Not saying that's best. I'm not saying that's for everybody. Again, depends on what you're trying to accomplish in the woods. I better help Genevieve. I got to do my fair share. You doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing a banner job. This is going to be great. I have blue on. Genevieve is still wearing the black t-shirt there. We are members of the Black T-Shirt Club, right? That's a little inside joke. If you're a friend of Bungie and you do want a black t-shirt, Death by Bungie t-shirt, you can check them out on deathbybungie.com. You got some new shirts this year. That's pretty cool, isn't it, kid? Yeah. I'm pretty excited about that. I am going to get to work here, but I'm wearing this so I can run that weed eater because I get stuff all over the place. I've had poison ivy twice this year. Twice is enough. Not getting it again. I wear the long clothes. It's going to make me sweat to death, but I am going to go through here and do my fair share. Man, I hate these things. Now you know that I am going to shoot a big buck here once again over this food plot. You know how I know? Because there's a big buck on the package.
Not the other one, though.
Not the other one, though. Genevieve makes a very good point about this. We're also going to top seed with a little bit of clover. We're going to go through, throw clover on the top. And for whatever reason, the clover doesn't really rate the same level of buck, apparently.
It's like realistic.
That's more realistic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, I'd be real happy with that. This buck has crab claws and everything, man. That's a nice buck. Well, we're going to top seed with clover. And the reason that I am top seeding with clover, I got done with my weed whacking here. I still have more to go, though. But The reason that we are top seeding it with clover, what I mean by that is that clover, I'm just going to fill in we're going to make sure we got enough seed in here, nice and heavy. And to do that, what we're going to do is spread this. We're putting half of that bag of Throw and Grow on here. The other half is going on the well-pad food plot. You can check out those videos if you're interested in how these plots are laid out. That's a slightly smaller plot, but we're going to top seed it, go through with those little fine clover seeds. That's added fertilizer. I don't know if you knew that. Clover is my favorite food plot crop. I just love it for so many reasons, but clover is a great crop because it adds nitrogen back into the soil. It won't be taking up the nitrogen. It won't be competing with the very important ryegrass that I'm planting or the other brassicas. Basically, the clover will add nitrogen back in to help those seeds, help those other plants prosper. They complement each other nicely. Plus the clover, now I don't think, I would just plant this in clover. Nothing wrong with that. But this time of year, when I say timing is everything, this is not the time of year to plant clover. It's not to hunt over. It's a great time of year to plant clover. It's always a great time to plant clover. But if you want to hunt over it in the fall and have clover that's 4 to 6 inches tall that will survive deer forage, you need to plant that in the spring, either frost seeding or tilling in the spring and planting a whole plot. You do that in June even, and you could have a huntable plot by fall. But if you are watching this video and you're thinking, this is the year, Rich has convinced me. Death by Bunjie has convinced me. This is the year I'm getting into food plottery. If you're thinking that, a quick bag of this Throw and Grow stuff is great stuff. Just go buy that. You can go to an ag store and ask them for recommendations for your area for a different seed, like a winter wheat or cereal rye, one of those. Those are good picks to start out with too, I think. You can go get the actual seeds for that. But if you just want to go to Tractor Supply or Walmart and buy a bag of seed, that Throw and Grow stuff, pretty good stuff. I would stay away from peas. Deer love them, but you won't have any left by the time the hunting season comes around. Not on a plot this size. That's the thing. And the other nice thing about this ryegrass, though, think about this. By planting the ryegrass and even the clover to some extent, that helps me have some of this left around to hunt. When this stuff's growing in August and September, it's not real attractive to deer. Like there are other things out here, such as the 100-year-old apple tree, way more attractive to deer than this food plot is going to be. Way more attractive to deer. So there's other food sources out there. The ryegrass becomes something that won't even compete with the acorns if acorns are dropping in your area. And that's almost a good thing, because by the time the season rolls around, by the time I get in here to do something about those deer eating my food plot, by the time I get in here to take care of that business, it'll probably be one of the more attractive things. But not up until then. That means the deer won't eat it all. It won't be just bare ground. It'll actually be something that is a little bit more palatable to deer at that time. And there'll be some left over for them. So that's what we're doing. We're going to throw some clover on here, some clovier. Very excited about that. My favorite of all food plot seeds is clover. Corn is just about the best thing on the planet for deer, though, isn't it? Oh, if only. If you could have just this little thing, imagine that, Genevieve. What if we had this food plot just in corn?
Yeah.
And then fence it in?
Soybeans.
Soybeans. Yeah, that way you can shoot into soybeans. You really can't shoot into corn. But man, they'll come from all over to do corn. One last consideration, too, I should bring up. Last year we had cornfields up on the neighbors, right? Neighbors had all these cornfields, and that was big business. Big business for the deer. They're all hanging out in those cornfields. But they came in for the apples. Genevieve got her first deer, buck under the 100-year-old apple tree. And they came in here, didn't they? I had a buck in here. I got my nicest Pennsylvania buck of all time right here in this very food plot. In fact, he was standing right there. He came down. He was right here. He was right there. Boom. Shot him. It was great. And when you find something like that that kind of works, you stick with it. Again, that's why I'm sticking with that food plot seed, at least for this location, for that time of year. Well, look at that, the 100-year-old apple tree. It is showing those same signs of decay like I had in previous years. I've removed all of the dead stuff on there. I'll try and zoom in a little bit, see if that helps. But you can see on the bottom of that tree, a lot of dead stuff. It's holding the apples. The deer will still eat those apples when they fall, but there's a lot of dead or dying branches at the bottom. I suspect what's going on is it's going through a cycle where it's trying to get taller. Removing some trees would help. Not overdoing the fertilizer like I've done in the past, I suspect would help. But I am going to watch it closely. I have my weed whacking clothes on, and if you look out here, there is an inadequate shooting lane out there. That grass has grown up. It needs to be taken down. I'm only going to take it down to about waist level so I can sneak an arrow in there, a deer that might be out there feeding under that 100-year-old apple tree down the road. So I'm going to sort of look at it from the blinds perspective. Blinds right behind you guys, right behind the camera. I got the scythe. This thing, when we talk about hand tools, this is the mother of all hand tools, isn't it? I love this thing. I actually sharpened it. I have the what is it called? Work Sharp, I think it's called. Knife sharpening kit, which has some heavy belts on there, very rough belts, and they worked perfect for going through and sharpening this. Check out that blade. Oh yeah. This tool is way better, in my opinion, than the weed eater for a job like this. Holy cow, can I lay down grass with this thing? You're doing a 3-foot swath at a time. The only problem with this guy is your back. And that's not a problem with this, it's a problem with me. I am worn out and my back hurts by the time I'm done. But I've got these clothes on to protect me from the poison ivy that is no doubt in there that I got affected with twice this year. I actually had to go to the doctor the second time. So we're gonna go out there, we're gonna put this thing to good use and see how we make out. Well, I am done, and as you can see, we got a nice path going out there. I might widen it up a little bit wider. I love this tool. I wouldn't want to do that on a daily basis, but man, I am happy that I am able to do that at 50 years of age. This summer, push mowing the lawn has been very productive, but I'm going to touch it up a little bit more. It actually took a lot less time than I thought it would. Told her put that on there nice and heavy. I want to shoot a big buck here. But she's doing a really good job. We're spinning that on. You can see it on the ground. We're going to put some of that duff back on top of here. And in the spots where that grass didn't come off real good, we're just going to put it on real heavy there, put this stuff back on. Not expensive seed at all. This is not expensive. So, and I can always stop by another bag. If she puts that whole bag on here and we get little skinny, spindly green things in October and November, that's good enough. All out.
That ran out pretty quick, yeah.
She ran out of clover real fast. Those clover seeds are so small. Man, they go through there fast. Well, I am ready to head out of here. I got to go get out of these clothes. I can't wait to do that. And I have a date with ibuprofen. I'm going to go take some Advil. That's for sure, because my back is going to be blaming me for all this, carrying stuff in, carrying it out, and doing that weed whacking and stuff. Genevieve, what a great job she did. We're going to get the pitchfork out, and I'll go through and I'll put the rest of this on here so she can rest a little bit. And we're going to head up to the car, and we're going to my mother's birthday party today. She is 83, in case any of you are following or interested in such things. 83 years old. She's doing fantastic. So we're going to go celebrate her birthday this afternoon. Until next time, which would be tomorrow's video because it's Crossbow Appreciation Month. Until tomorrow's video, all hail Bungie.